be with all of you. Senator Turner, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to congratulate her on her passionate remarks on behalf of a candidate that she's supporting so strongly. And I agree with her that regardless of where we wind up in the battle in the days ahead, we must come together for our combined purpose at the end of the day to ensure we have a Democrat in the White House. When I was 9 years old, Hillary Clinton was in the valley of my state, the Rio Grande Valley, as a young college student, where she was working to make sure that the voiceless had a voice. I was 9. She's been doing that ever since. And I have watched it and marveled at it for many, many years. About that same time, my parents were going through a divorce. And my 6th grade educated mom became the sole support to 4 children. And I watched my mom struggle. She worked at Brahms Ice Cream and Dairy Store while we were growing up. And we didn't have enough money for any sorts of luxuries, including any kind of health insurance. When I became a young teenage single mom, I felt as though my life was destined to look just like my mom's life looked. Undereducated, ill-prepared to take the responsibilities, the financial responsibilities of myself and my child. I lived those days that so many Americans live, where we come home with unbelievable fear about whether the lights are going to turn on when we turn on that switch. And I have been there when they didn't come on. I know that life. And I know, watching Hillary Clinton, her fights for people like me. I grew up in a time when this country believed and supported the ideal that if you were willing to work hard, you could become anything that you wanted to be. And I am living proof of that story. I am living proof of it because of certain things that were in place when I was coming up through that tough time that made it possible for me. One of those was a Planned Parenthood clinic very close to my home, the place where I received the only health care that I had for about 4 years. My well woman exams, my cancer screenings, my diabetes screenings, and perhaps most importantly of all, my contraceptive care. Because as a young mom, trying so hard to move myself and my daughter up and out of poverty, there's no way I could have done it if I couldn't control my reproductive destiny. Economic opportunity, these things are so intricately tied together. I also had the benefit of affordable education. I put my foot finally on the path of higher education at a community college, just like Senator Turner said she did. I worked a full-time job and a part-time job. I had a 2-year-old child, and I was in classes trying as hard as I could to do something for us. But I could write the check that paid for that education because I lived in a country that believed in making education affordable for people like me. I also had the benefit of some things that weren't necessarily in law, but I understood and deeply understand to this day why they matter so very much. I had the benefit of an employer who allowed me time off when my daughter was sick. I had that Family Leave Act that Hillary has been working so hard to support and to pass. I also had the benefit of affordable childcare because I had a friend who took care of my daughter for me at a reasonable cost. And I was able, because of that, to move myself forward. Every single one of these things was essential And none of them exist for people who are trying to move their way up and out of poverty in this country today. Not a single one of them. I heard President Clinton speak last year, actually 2 years ago, at the anniversary of the passage of the Civil Rights Act in Texas at the LBJ Library. And he was talking about the fact that in America today, though people are working as hard as they can, they're no longer working as we once did for the promise of a better tomorrow. It's not there for them. And he and Hillary have been fighting their whole lives to make that promise a reality. My first real understanding and recognition of the person who was Hillary Clinton came when she was the First Lady. I was a young woman going through law school. By the way, my path led me to Harvard Law School. And I was there and I was watching her fighting for universal health care. And make no mistake about it, to this day, Hillary Clinton believes in and is fighting for and is going to fight for universal health care. It is one of her most important issues. And I watched and marveled at her in that fight. Not only that she was willing to bring so much to the table to try to get that law passed, but I watched her fight in the face of people who dismissed her because she was a woman. I watched her stand up to the criticisms of the fact that she was the First Lady and she ought to stay in her place. And I watched her as I've watched her year after year after year after year put her head down, do twice as much as so many of the men around her, receive much more criticism than so many of the men around her, and continue to press on because she believes so strongly in what she's fighting for. The second time that I had a crystallizing moment about Hillary Clinton was in 2009. She was before a congressional hearing of the Foreign Affairs Committee. And one of the Congress people decided that he was going to do a gotcha moment with her. And he tried to put her in the corner and put her on the defensive about the administration's support for reproductive rights in countries outside of the United States. And I encourage you to go back and watch her response to him, because it's indicative of so many other times that she's been before the firing line and she has ably stepped up and fought for the things that she believes in. What I was most impressed about in her answer, number one, was that she started it with such respect. And it said a lot about the way she deals with people. And it helped me see why she's always had such a tremendous ability to bring different factions together. But she proceeded to explain with no apology, with absolute resoluteness, and with the most unbelievable intelligence, the best response to why we ought to support reproductive rights that I have ever heard. And what I know is that when Hillary Clinton has the opportunity to represent us as our president, if we elect her, that fight is something that she believes in to her core and will wake up every day trying to assure. I am expecting my first grandchild, and I am so happy. And we found out not long ago that she is a girl. And I think about the world that she's going to grow up in. I think about her looking at her grandma, at a Hillary Clinton. I think about the way I grew up and what I understood to be some of the limitations in place for women. I think about the experiences I've had working alongside men and being paid less than they were. I think about the experiences I've had having to fight for reproductive freedoms for people in my state. And I know that with someone like Hillary Clinton in office, her life is going to be made better as a result. She's going to grow up, I truly believe, in a world where women are paid equally to men, where we do have family leave, where we do have affordability of college, where we do have affordable daycare, where we do have universal pre-K for every single child in this country, because she is going to have a person who's fighting to make that happen. So when we talk about purpose, I want you to please consider the purpose with which Hillary Clinton has gotten up and fought every single day of her adult life. And let's not dismiss it as though somehow it's not enough. When I watched Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, I remember getting ready in the morning, watching her on the Today Show, those moments when she looked weary and tired. And I thought about her as a mom, as a wife, and as a person who had given up so much to get on a plane over and over and over again and fly into time zones all over this country and sit across the table and do some unbelievably hard things because she cared so much for our country back home. I don't dismiss that. And I certainly see it as not only an unbelievably profound and honorable purpose, but I see it as a purpose that had unbelievably profound results. Hillary Clinton negotiated a ceasefire in Hamas. Hillary Clinton got countries all over this world to agree to enforce sanctions against Iran, which is what put us in the position of being able to negotiate the nuclear agreement that was just negotiated. She did these very hard things. And what I think about when I look at her depth and breadth of experience is that if she can bring warring factions like that together and get them to agree to do what we might consider is impossible, she is the person to bring the warring factions of our Congress together to finally get some of these things. And make no mistake about it, she does not believe that we shouldn't be working to do hard things. And if you look at her platform, there's not a single piece of it that's easy. There's not a single piece of it that's not ambitious. There's not a single piece of it that isn't idealistic and filled with dreams about how we can be a better country. But behind all of that is her effectiveness at getting things done. And that's why Hillary is my candidate. Why I am going, as Senator Turner is going to continue to do for Senator Sanders. I am going to continue to fight as long and hard as I can, as I've seen Hillary fighting for me as long and as hard as she has been. And I hope that at the end of the day, we can all look with pride, I know we will, at whomever our nominee is. And I promise you, if it's not Hillary Clinton, I'll be lining right beside you for Bernie Sanders to make sure that we all do pass the right line. God bless you all. Thank you so very much.
Right on time, too. These ladies know how to keep us on time. So we're going to take two questions, just like we did for Senator Turner, and you got your hand up quick, Mary, so go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I watched you when you ran for governor against Mr. Abbott, and I was appalled at the attacks they put on you as a woman and reproductive freedom. I have seen states trying to make it impossible for women to have access to abortions, to reproductive care. And now with Hillary Clinton, it seems like every time she makes strides, we pull out the emails, we pull out Benghazi. Do you feel that they are doing this because she's a woman who's getting too much power?
You know, I think, and Hillary would never play the victim card, and I don't want to do it on her behalf either. But the reality is that she has faced some of the most nasty, strident, and unbelievably long and strong fights against her that I've seen any politician experience. And again, she just gets up every day and she keeps on working. And it's like President Obama said about her. She is so unbelievably smart. And she's so dedicated to the causes that she believes in, that she's willing to put herself forward in the face of those withering attacks to do what needs to be done. And the fact that she's been able to survive so much for so long tells me that there's no one better suited not only to actually serve, but to get us through to November successfully against whoever the Republican candidate is. Because